What up? What up? Fantasy football hustler back at you. And oh, yeah, we got another hustler interview. This one I've been excited about for a long time, someone I've been following a long time in the industry. Before we bring him out here, I got to remind everybody, go get signed up at patreon.com/FFHustler. 420. I got a draft guide there with over 800 players broken down. We got rankings from maybe a half a dozen up and coming fantasy analysts in the industry. A lot of info. We just added offensive line rankings. We just added kicker and team defense rankings. Even though you guys know I hate those positions, we got them in there for you. And if you get signed up right now, you're going to be entered in a Ricky Williams jersey giveaway. So another incentive if there wasn't enough already. You also get one-on-one access to me through the Discord and through DM. So yeah, go check it out. Patreon.com/FFHustler 420. And if you guys saw on social media, been teasing this for a few days, but we got the man, the myth, the legend, the creator of the reception perception, really probably your analyst's favorite analyst when it comes to the wide receiver spot. He's the man. We got a lot of nuggets that we're going to be dropping today. Let me bring him out here. Matt Harmon.
What's up? I got to compliment you, Hustler, on the absolutely electric intro you've got going on there, man. You know, from the kind of, I don't know, Pac-Man original Mario type of video game countdown to all of the awesome big plays that we had there. Love to see a bunch of the receivers, Justin Jefferson, AJ Brown, Brandon Ayuk making some big plays. I mean, that got me hyped up for the show. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. So all self-produced by me. That was one of the first intros I ever made, put a lot of time into it. I tried to change things around a little bit, and everybody was like, no, just put it back the way it was. Don't even mess with it. So I'm excited to have you on. I've been following you, forever. I can't even put how many years on it. We were talking a little bit before the show, like the evolution of reception perception. I want to hear about where it all started, just at the beginning. Did it happen before you were on Yahoo? That was really the first place that I ever saw you, was on Yahoo.
Yeah. So, years and years before that, we're talking back in 2013. I was, I had a normal job, quote unquote. Was basically doing football in my free time, like doing the Backyard Banter, my original website. Some people out there might remember the podcast with that as well, where I sort of did an interview style show, just kind of like this, which, by the way, I'm glad to see that's really taken off, just, casual interview type of thing. That was kind of the original idea around Backyard Banter, the podcast. But anyway, so I was doing the website, but like we were talking about before the show, it's kind of tough to gain traction there at the beginning. I kind of said to myself, I have to do something to stand out in this very crowded, and that's like back in 2013. It's so much more crowded with so many great people doing things right now. But basically, I decided I had to stand out from the crowd. I had to do something different, and I was just going to try to answer my big question about football, which to me was all about the wide receiver position, because this, man. Everybody out there knows this, like wide receiver, they're so inherently dependent on other variables in order to accrue production. Obviously, we know the quarterback has to be good. It has to get them the ball accurately and on time. But there's even more that goes into it. The offensive line has to protect the quarterback. The coach got to put them in the right position to win. They got to kind of be drafted to the right team, defensive matchups, whatever. I said to myself, there has to be some way to isolate the wide receiver from those outside variables. There had to be some way to essentially try to quantify the qualitative reality of route running, the one thing that the receiver can control, how often they run good routes and get separation and get open against the defenders covering them. And that was the birth of reception perception. I spent most of the back half of 2013 and even the early part of 2014 before ever creating any articles about reception perception, testing it, doing different variations of it, seeing how much could I cut the sample, to save some time, right? To be representative of a full season, which is where we landed at the 8. There was a lot that went into it. My dad tells this story of coming into my apartment, my 1-bedroom apartment in Lynchburg, Virginia, with just paper strewn all over the floor, and he's like, what the hell is going on here? I'm like, I'm working on this thing for my website. It's called Reception Perception. He's like, all right, well, maybe clean the place up a little bit. But yeah, that was kind of how it all got started, and then put the article out on Backyard Banter. Got picked up to do some work with the Washington Post back home in Virginia. Got to do some stuff with Football Guys as well, which was kind of my first break into the fantasy space of things. And then went to NFL Network for a few years after that, then to Yahoo, and here we are now. Obviously, Reception Perception was with the Fantasy Footballers for 4 years. 4 great years, was an awesome partnership, and now broke off to receptionperception.com, the independent entity of which you are a subscriber, and I thank you for that.
Oh, yeah. And break down the tiers that we got. And you guys use promo code Hustler when you go get signed up for Reception Perception. Just kidding. It doesn't exist, but one day. So 3 tiers, though. And I made sure to get on the highest one because I wanted all the access to you guys as I could get.
Yeah, so there's 3 tiers of access. Our basic access tier, that's just, pretty much you're going to get articles, every profile that I write. So, I and of course you also get access to my tiers cheat sheet, which is on receptionperception.com. I used to give that thing out for free. We don't give things out for free here anymore. No, I'm just kidding. But it's all just for the subscribers. I'm trying to get as much value for you guys as possible. So basic tier, I kind of look at that as like, look, it's August, right? It's August 20th. You haven't done too much research yet. Well, you want to go find out what receivers Reception Perception likes more than consensus. You want to see some of the route charts, some of that kind of basic level stuff with RP. You get yourself a basic subscription. Prime is kind of the meat of it. That's where most people are. That's where you get access to the Discord. You get access to the master plan, which is the 130 page, I believe it's between 120 and 130 page guide. Basically, anything you want to know about Reception Perception heading into 2020, it's in an ebook format. It's a free add-on for anybody that is a new or existing Prime subscription or Sicko tier as well. So Prime, you also get the sortable data tables, for the prospects and the current NFL players from last year. And then the Sicko tier, where you belong, that's everything that we've already talked about, in addition to historical data, which I've never given out before. Like you mentioned, like we just talked about, I started this in 2014, fully collecting data. So you can track like how Odell Beckham has been throughout his career, or who are the best at beating man coverage over the 300 players and 80,000 routes I've charted since 2014. You get access to all of that information. In season, we'll be doing more like live Q&A type stuff for just the Sicko subscribers. That's also coming. And didn't we mention this? Sicko subscribers and Prime subscribers get a rookie report during the regular season. That's a new thing as well. Obviously, it's hard to chart in the middle of the season when there's so much going on. But I'm sure October, November me is going to hate August me for promising this, but I'm going to go in and I'm going to chart how the rookies are doing. Devontae Smith, Jamar Chase, Elijah Moore, all those guys will release a report during the back half of the rookie season. So if you play Dynasty, oh man, Elijah Moore is actually crushing it even more than his statistics show. Let me go buy him in Dynasty now.
Heck yeah.
A lot of stuff.
I like it. And I'm learning something new because I didn't even know that was coming out. So stoked about that. I think the draft guide, whenever you launched that a couple weeks ago or whatever, I remember getting an email about it. Freaking awesome, because I wasn't expecting that to come either. So super excited.
That was a new idea, mostly from James Co, my co-owner there at receptionperception.com. Like, he just basically said, you know what, obviously there's so much information on the site, but we got a lot of user feedback of people that were like, I want to be able to read the profiles in order of your rankings. So that's what's a big part of the master plan. The ebook that you can download is just, you can sort through the whole thing as I have the players ranked this year coming into the season. There's some of the data, the sortable data tables are in there as well. In addition to all the articles we've written, like the 10 receivers that Reception Perception is ahead of consensus on. So lots of stuff. It's been good feedback, all things so far. And I'm loving running my own site. I'm loving being in the Discord with you and all the other people as well. And we're just starting to build that out too. Additionally for, I'm sure you're like smarter with this stuff than I am, dude. Cause like I'm so new to Discord. I'm such a boomer about this, I guess. Like, so I'm trying to learn as much as possible, but we've built out some actual channels for people to be able to, ask questions and sort of be organized by like league format and stuff like that. So a lot of cool stuff coming.
Yeah, and just like I told James, you ever need any free labor with any of that stuff, I'm your guy. I'm
there
35.
Yeah.
I'm 35, but I've been doing, this all this stuff for a little while now. And so real quick, so we're streaming on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. We're actually streaming in my Facebook group that has like 42,000 members on in there. So we have like little shy of a couple hundred people that are watching right now. Let's pretend that some of these people don't actually know what reception perception is. What are a couple of the key metrics that you break down for the wide receivers?
Yeah, so sort of what I mentioned up at the top is that reception perception, the goal is to isolate wide receiver play from quarterbacks, from the surrounding variables as much as possible. The main metrics of that are, the main metric is success rate versus coverage. So what I do with reception perception is over an 8-game sample for NFL players, and college players are back this year as well on the website. So, some of the guys like Jamar Chase, Elijah Moore, Devonta Smith, like I mentioned, those guys are profiled on the site. Basically what I do is I go in and I chart every single route that those receivers run in those games. I chart how often they run each route type, how often they get open on each individual route type, against what type of coverage are they best, man, zone, press, etc. So I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that have not heard of reception perception, but what I hope that you can glean from that little brief sales pitch. By the way, like, there's also alignment data, our guys, X receivers, flankers, slots, contested catch metrics as well, yards after like tackles broken after the catch, drop rate, stuff like that. There's a lot, basically anything that you want to know about a receiver, reception perception is going to tell you that. But the main metrics are the success rate versus coverage metrics, success rate versus man, zone, press, success on each individual route type. What I hope comes through with all that and reception perception is that you can try to find it, but I guarantee you will not find this information anywhere else on the internet. And you will not find, like, just put a lot of work into this over the years. And I think we've turned out a really good product, especially here recently.
And since 2013, when you started this, I want you to exaggerate a little bit, but how many man hours has gone into all this? Because anyone who thinks they could find the information in the same amount of time, let's tell them about how long.
Dude, I mean, like, you see these like other separation metrics on the internet, like, separation by target from like next gen. I mean, I'm sure people are doing great work, man, but no chance. Not the same thing. It's not even close. Take that and just toss it out. Like, nobody's watching every single route for these guys. Like I'm doing. I don't know how to calculate man hours, honestly, but let me tell you this. From like the months of, the previous iteration of the partnership with the fantasy footballers, their draft kit was June. This year, most of the stuff was released in July, but let's just say basically from late March, let's go April to July this year, to June this year. I always say, like, especially to my fiance now, this is a tough thing to explain. I'm upstairs charting routes, but no, it's basically, I just say I'm in route prison, like I'm in route prison. That's all I'm doing is watching players. And everybody else that does football, like we all bust our ass from, let's say, August to January during the regular season. I'm the only idiot that decided, you know what? Let me do some more work. Let me make my life more miserable in the other 3 hours. But I love it. I mean, it's an absurd amount of man hours over the last 2 years. Like I said, 80,000 routes are in the database, over 300 players. Every game probably takes like between 15 to 20 minutes. So you can just do the math on that yourself. It's a lot of hours.
It's a lot. What would you say from like a business standpoint? How was it like transitioning from working with the footballers, for 4 years, being exclusive to them versus, now partnering up with James Coe and, launching the whole reception perception website?
Yeah. I mean, number one, James Coe is like just such an unbelievable asset that kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, James and I are really good friends. We worked together at the NFL for several years. We hosted a podcast there together. So that part of it was, for like a content standpoint, that was easy, man. I could sit here, and James and I do on our weekly live stream that's just for subscribers. The clips go up on my YouTube page if anybody wants to check that out as kind of like a little taste. But our full hour plus live show, that's easy because James and I just have great chemistry. We work really well together. But from a business angle, he was an invaluable resource in that because, I know wide receivers. I know route running, that type of stuff. Man, I don't know much about launching a business, so he was very helpful there. Obviously, that was a great decision. And I mean, the footballers and the partnership that we had was great. Transitioning to like being an independent site, I think the cool part about it is just like, if I have an idea, I can just do it. Like, I also still work with Yahoo Sports as well. I'm still doing all of my same stuff there, whether it's Fantasy Football Live on Sunday mornings, hosting the podcast there as well, writing articles. But, the cool part about having an independent site is, well, listen, if I want to write an article about this, that, or the other, I just do it, and being able to also create the community part of it on our own, like all of you sickos out there that want to be in the Discord and everything like that. It's just really cool to kind of create that community. So, from a business standpoint, you're always a little nervous to start something new. You're always a little nervous when even though Reception Perception is like a known and trusted brand, throughout the industry, right? Like I've been doing this for so long. You're still nervous to kind of take that leap. Like what will the response be when you do it just out there on your own? But it's been really rewarding. I'll say that for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, I can't remember if it was you or James who was actually when I went on, we were on the Rum Boys channel on My Version's Better, and we were talking about it. And as soon as you guys talked about being independent and stuff, I was all about it. I like seeing you guys like branch off and, being your own business. I mean, that's what it is. Like we're creating content, but now it's a full-on business. And it's awesome.
Yeah. It's pretty cool, man.
I love it. Now let's get into some just wide receiver talk in general. We all know about the top guys. Who would you say, just based on reception perception, and we don't even have to go like round 1 or 2 guys, but who are just some of your guys in the top 12 ADP wise that you love because of everything with reception perception?
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, there's obviously, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, the first round guys. You wouldn't be surprised to find they're, in like the top 8 in terms of success rate versus man or press coverage. Those guys are the elite of the elite. Stephon Diggs actually last year, 82 points. Since you're a Sicko subscriber, you can go look this up in the historical tables yourself. 82.6% success rate versus man coverage. That was the best score ever charted since 2014. Also number 1 against press coverage last year as well. He's been like a reception perception stud from the jump since he got into the league. Years ago, 2017, he even led the NFL coming into that year in this metric. But last year was kind of really his like magnum opus, right? He really wrote the story of why he's an elite player at the position. And looking across like the rest of the leaderboards there, success rate versus man and press, a couple other guys that are in that top 12 range, like you mentioned, that stand out. Number 1, Allen Robinson, man. He's been a guy that has been a reception perception favorite for the long time. Actually, Robinson and I have a little bit of a relationship now at this point. Years ago, I was able to, after the RP predicted that he would have his 2015 breakout, and obviously we know how that ended. He led the NFL in touchdowns. I got to meet him and thank him. I was like, literally, dude, thank you for being as good as you are, because you probably just like made my career, right? Like that was probably the thing that put RP on the map for most people way back in the day. He's still up there. Number 5 last year in success rate versus man coverage. In 2019 was number 1 on the list. And like now that we might get Justin Fields at some point, that's just so exciting to have tracked his career this long. And, all of the quarterbacks that he's played with. Obviously, Fields, I think, could change the offense from like a play calling perspective. They might be a more run heavy operation when he's in there. But I think one of the things that's interesting with Chicago, too, they really put some effort into not just getting Fields this year, but also revamping their offensive line. They draft Tevin Jenkins in the second round. He's out now for who knows how long. It's kind of a tough look that they cut Charles Leno, their starting left tackle there. You said you're doing offensive line rankings like in your draft guide. The Bears offensive line, a little bit of a problem, but like I would definitely take Justin Fields and his mobility back there over Andy Dalton kind of being a statue at this point. So, Robinson really stands out. Terry McLaurin's another guy that's kind of on that same trajectory, a budding superstar there that, when you can get those 2 guys in the 3rd round this year, I'm just like every time smashing that. I feel like, I don't know how you feel about drafts this year, man, but for me, I've mostly gone like running back in round 1 and 2. If the picks line up, but then like rounds 3, 4, 5, it's like, that's the receiver alley to me. And it kind of starts there in the 3rd round with McLaurin and Robinson.
And I guess I've been doing a lot more. I'm pretty much super flex or bust at this point. I haven't done too many single QB leagues, but that means that, guys like Allen Robinson and Terry McLaurin sometimes slip to the fourth round.
The fourth,
which is even crazier, and that's just, straight cash, homie, as Randy Moss would say.
And I think McLaurin especially is like he is an ascending superstar that I think a lot of fantasy heads know about because he got a lot of hype coming into last year and he had 1,000 yards. But, I think Fitzpatrick could unleash him and Curtis Samuel to the point that, like, we're talking about McLaurin, especially as a true superstar by the end of this year.
I'm hoping so. I mean, when I got on reception perception and then seeing all his breakdown and everything, I already liked him. It made me start drafting him a little bit earlier, trying to get him, depending on where I was, maybe around earlier versus around later. And I'm excited for this season for him in particular. And here's one of my new favorite drops. So Allen Robinson's QBs have pretty much been his entire career. The drop doesn't work. I messed up. It was a dump truck.
Well, you're not wrong, though. And hey, his quarterbacks have messed up a lot. So I think you're kind of on brand there anyways. I mean, realistically, the last two off seasons, when they added Nick Foles, it was like we were sitting here like through gritted teeth, like Nick Foles is the best quarterback that Allen Robinson has ever played with, and then last year or this past year, it's Andy Dalton is the best quarterback that Allen Robinson has ever played with, which those are true, but now we actually might have the real thing here in Justin Fields. So that is pretty exciting.
I'm so excited. I don't know if I'm excited as Adam Rank is, about it, but definitely
nobody's excited as Adam Rank is about it. I'll tell you
that. If he goes 2 days without posting about Fields, there's a problem there. There's something definitely a problem. And so how about, let's get past, the top guys. I mean, everybody who's a well-versed fantasy player, we know about Robinson, we know about Terry McLaurin, but let's jump down a little bit farther where we start getting into like the sexy flexy like territory, maybe guys who are outside of wide receiver 2 territory. Who are a couple like deeper dives that you like this year?
Yeah, actually, and this is what makes receiver so appealing this year is you can start to get down like sub wide receiver 30 in my tiers, which are on the website. As I mentioned, it's in a sortable cheat sheet so that you can print it out and all that stuff. There are guys there that I really like. And like, it's kind of starts to me with Michael Gallup, the Dallas receiver, wide receiver 32 for me. That's way ahead of consensus. He's a guy that's, depending on where you draft, right? If you draft on like a competitive best ball platform, like Underdog, he's going to go like in the 7th round. But if you're in like a seasonal league or something like that, you're just drafting with your buddies, he might go legit undrafted. Like his Yahoo ADP is like undrafted. It's insane. It's nuts. Michael Gallup is a really good player. He's their best receiver, or he was at least last year, their best receiver from a downfield perspective and a success rate versus press perspective. Considering how often he faced press coverage last year. And that's what's interesting to me this year. It sounds like they're going to move these receivers around more, which I definitely think accesses a bigger ceiling for a guy like CeeDee Lamb. Like we want CeeDee Lamb playing outside. We want him running more of those downfield routes after he was like a 90+% slot guy last year. But that also will open up Michael Gallup to move inside more, to get some of those layup routes, because I think that's the question a lot of folks have is why wasn't Gallup popping off, when Dak was in consistently? It's because he was running all downfield routes as the X receiver. And if there's one thing I've learned a lot over the last several years doing reception perception. Well, one thing really that I've honed in on is that where you line up on the field, not just like slot or outside, but between X receiver, flanker, slot receiver, the routes get harder. When you're at the X guy, when you're the main number one out there against press coverage, the ISO player on the outside, that makes a big difference. And so Gallup moving away from that position more, well, actually, I think give him more layups. He's a guy I'd love to draft there. Curtis Samuel, I mentioned him earlier. Now that he's healthy, he has always been a reception perception superstar. Back in 2019, I know there's some folks out there are like, well, he's going back to the coaching staff that misused him in Carolina. No, that was the coaching staff that actually had his usage right. Just Kyle Allen stunk, like if we had full Cam Newton from like 2019 era, we would really be talking about a guy already that had that big breakout season as a vertical receiver. If you go on reception perception in the archive profiles, you see that he was open in that 2019 season, just didn't have a quarterback that could hit him. He's got a quarterback that can hit him now, I think, in Ryan Fitzpatrick. So I like him a lot. And kind of my deepest guy this year is Jacoby Myers, the Patriots receiver. We're not typically looking at the Patriots offense as like, oh man, let's invest in that passing portfolio there. But I think Myers is a guy who's produced really well within the context of that passing game the last couple of years. And reception perception would show you he's in an area where you're counting like on a pretty decent season from him at some point in his career. It could be this year. You know, he's out there playing every single snap with the starters in preseason. Despite them adding Nelson Aguilar and Kendrick Bourne, I think he's going to be their top guy this year. And he's literally free in drafts.
Yeah, I mean, he, like you said, Michael Gallup, his ADP is unranked in Yahoo. I'm sure Myers is about the same. And yeah, I've been seeing both of those guys go super, super late. So they're on my radar. And anyone in the Hustler Patreon leagues or anything, I guess we're going to be fighting for those guys now in later rounds. Well, I'm excited. I'm glad to have you on here and glad to get some more insight, you know, behind the reception perception. Love hearing about the sleepers. Everyone loves hearing about that. Just wanted to keep this short and sweet. Anything that you can think of that you want to throw out there for just, I guess, last sales pitch on why people should go get signed up on reception perception right now before their drafts?
Yeah, well, like I said, I think we have a ton of information that is coming out in draft season, right? You know, obviously all of the sortable tables, all the player profiles, but the cool part is, like I said, with James and you and everybody there, we're really trying to build a community part of it too. So if you get in at the sicko level, you're going to get the, you know, live Q&As at some point during the regular season. We're going to be doing those weekly. That's in addition to the show that we'll do every weekend as well. And also the Discord will be active all season long. I think that's going to be a pretty fun place for everybody to kind of get advice. But yeah, I mean, the basic sales pitch for reception perception is that, like I said, you cannot get this information anywhere else. It's the only stat that will isolate wide receiver from quarterback and every other variable out there. So try to keep it unique, try to keep it interesting, and just want to keep building this rocket ship up as much as possible, man. It's been fun, and I just hope people really keep enjoying the product.
Oh, yeah. And from someone who's on the sicko level, the highest tier, I'm loving every minute of it. I really love the archives. Like, that was something that sometimes in the middle of the night, I'll just geek out there and go look at, you know, like 15, 20, you know, just like archives just to kind of prep a little bit for my draft. So definitely the highest tier is worth getting on, but every tier totally worth it. The Discord, I'm loving it. I love the community aspect of it. Everyone who's part of the Patreon. If you're not a part of the Patreon, go get signed up there. patreon.com/FFHustler420. Building a dope community. I love it. We don't have the home communities like we used to have. The days of like the lead TV show, everybody congregating amongst their friends in their hometown. Doesn't seem like it's there anymore. Everyone's moving or whatever, but he's on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm from Virginia. I live in LA, man. Like, it's about as far as you can get, but it's nice to be able to make these connections with people that, you know, because that's the thing, right? Like, we are a very different group of people in the community. You know, I mean, I think the good part is we're getting more like diverse and new ideas every single year, which is awesome. You know, people that approach the game very differently, but the reality is that we all just love football, man. Like, football is cool as hell to all of us. And like, let's keep geeking out on that together. I think it's awesome.
Yep. It's great. Super fun. I'm excited. So August 30th, that officially starts draft season. I mean, I know everyone's been drafting before that, but I know that is the special day that everyone's waiting for. If you're not subscribed on my YouTube channel, make sure you get subscribed because we got a bunch of mock drafts that are coming out this week. Super flex, single QB, a couple auction style mock drafts. So going to get you guys ready for the final 3 weeks before the season starts. I'm excited. And make sure you go get signed up on Matt's YouTube channel as well. Is it Reception Perception, or what's the actual channel name?
Just Matt Harmon. Yep, Matt Harmon RP is the channel name.
There we go. All righty, everybody. We'll see you later. Thanks for hanging in there with us. We got a mock draft coming live tomorrow, and then I actually got a live draft coming tomorrow as well. So a lot of info, and then we also got the Real Fantasy Playmakers coming up on Sunday. So a lot of content coming your way. And for all you IDP freaks out there, I got the IDP outro for you guys. Peace out, everybody.
Defense on me.
I don't want them to gain another yard.
You blitz all night. Tonight, if they cross the line of scrimmage, I'm gonna take every last one of you out. You make sure they remember forever the night they played the Titans.
Here comes the